Hello and welcome back to the Pulse with Willie and Al. How's it going today, brother?
Man, it's been snowing all night here in New Hampshire. Got a ton of snow. Still snowing out now.
Yeah.
You know me though. I'm still wearing shorts, so
Yeah.
it's all right. It's all
Yeah.
right.
So things are going well for you on this divisional playoff week.
Yeah, I'm tired. I watched a lot of football this weekend, man. 3 straight days of it, and it was glorious.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of nice now
Yeah,
that the NFL's spaced it out. I wish I could have been there for it, but watching the games late, that's what we got to do here when we're in Turkey. So,
yeah.
but hey guys, thanks for joining us on our 34th episode of the Pulse. Like I mentioned, this is episode 34, and this is our Dallas Here's the Door episode. So, it's we didn't expect that to happen, or did we? So.
We
But
all did. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah, I think we might have. So, you guys know the drill. Listen, smash that subscribe button. Go ahead and like the video. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you think we can do better. Also, make sure you answer those trivia questions because we're gonna have some new ones coming to you to you today. But let's get things started off with the coaching carousel that we have going on. And I mean, you got to mention the big firings, some of the big hirings, and some of the ones we've seen, right? Ron Rivera, Arthur Smith, Mike Vrabel, former Patriot, Pete Carroll, also former Patriot, and Bill Belichick, the Patriot.
Yeah, the
So
former Patriot.
yeah, so I mean, just looking at it now, man, there's eight head coaching positions that are available. Well, actually seven, because your team uh, just ended up hiring someone, but we'll get into that in a
Yeah,
minute. So I just,
yeah.
I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be curious out there because where these coaches end up. Especially three of them. When I think about Belichick, Carroll, and Vrabel, uh, I can definitely say you don't want them in your division. Uh,
Yeah.
at all. Things become drastically harder if they are coaching a team in your division, because that's a team that you are definitely going to have to account for next year. Uh, they're going to show up, they're going to be ready to play, and they're going to play sound football, and that's a really tough thing. So, I mean, what do you think about some of these guys that are available?
Well, I think guys like Rivera, I don't think he's going to get another job in the league. I think
Hmm.
he's kind of done. Arthur Smith, respectfully, I'm not sure that dude knows how to coach. I think he's a fine coordinator. I think other than that, though, eh, like when you can't figure out how to use Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, I don't know if you know how to coach. Call me
Yeah.
crazy. Call me crazy. Vrabel, I really thought he was going to get the Patriots job, which when we get to that part, the guy they hired, I'm perfectly cool with.
Hmm.
Like, good dude, good player. Pete Carroll, I know they said he took like a senior advisor role with the Seahawks, but I don't. It felt like he got fired, and nobody's
Yeah.
gonna say that. And
Yep.
it feels the same way with Belichick too. Like I know that it was a mutual thing, but it felt like Belichick got fired too. And I
Yeah.
don't love it, man. I understand. I understand that Belichick probably wants to break the all-time wins record because he's like closing in on that.
Hmm.
I think he wants to try to get one more ring so he can do that. He can say he won one without Brady. Um, I
Yeah.
think when it's all said and done, and there's a lot of openings right now, and like there's the San Diego job, which looks good, although they're in salary cap hell. So like I don't know how good that actually looks. And also, I think the Cowboys job is going to open up too,
I do too.
with
Yeah.
McCarthy probably being shown the door. And there's, I think you, if you gave me odds, like a percentage, I think there's a 30% chance the Eagles job comes open.
Yeah, that's two jobs that we didn't think going into the weekend were probably going to be available. But I mean, McCarthy's job was going to be dependent on the last game of the season, right? They had kind of talked about that at the beginning. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back. One thing they did mention that Belichick had interviewed with Atlanta today, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's gonna necessarily happen. They probably want to like lift their skirt up and be like, "Come here," but I don't know if that's the place for him. But I just, in remembrance of him, for why don't you go ahead and share your favorite Belichick moment that you've had? Huh?
I think for me, there's two that come to mind. There's the one where he takes the intentional safety in that Denver game for the comeback, because
Hmm.
that's like thinking on a level that's thinking on a level that you just like you're playing 4D chess while everybody else is just playing checkers.
Yep.
But for me, the one memory that I will forever cherish, and it kind of kicks off the second half of this dynasty, is that Seattle Super Bowl, because he talks about it and he looked over at the sidelines and saw that Seattle was confused and decides not to bail him out with a timeout. And that, to have that kind of like wherewithal where your coordinators are screaming at you to take the time out, and he's like, nah, I'm gonna let them figure this out on their own, is
Yeah.
that's just a that's a G move right there, man. Like that's cold. And that's I for me, that kicks off the second half of this dynasty that we had. And yeah, that's the memory that I'll always kind of take away from
It really did, because
take away from Bill.
it could have gone in a very different direction if you guys don't win that Super Bowl. You don't know how the team splits up after that, what ends up happening. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
very 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 interesting move that he made there. I got to share mine. My favorite one. He was doing an interview. They were doing the combine. They always do it in Indianapolis, but he was talking to Willie McGinnis at the desk, and he's like, "Hey, coach, how you doing? This and that and stuff." And he's like, "You got any stories for us?" And he tells this story about when he comes to Indianapolis, how like everyone's yelling at it, like the fans and stuff like that. People in the town, they're like, "Yeah, Mr. Belichick, this and that," and he goes that's the way I was always treated in Indianapolis until I went for it on 4th and 1 and didn't get it. And now when I go to Indianapolis, it's hello, how are you doing, Mr. Belichick? Glad to have you to town. And like, so it was just it let you inside to get that personal touch from him that you don't typically get to see. And I thought it was brilliant that he was able to be able to share a
Yeah.
story like that. So really, really like him a lot in terms of that. Even though I spent most of my career in football, I say my career, but
Hating him
career
on.
as a fan, not hating him, but just strongly disliking him for a number of
Sure.
reasons. But ton of respect for him. So, but
Can I ask you a question real quick, Willie?
yeah, sure.
Uh, where where do you think he ends up coaching wise? Oh, let me put this as a two-part question.
Yeah.
Where do you think he's going to end up, and where do you want him to end up? Because I think those might be two different answers.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to end up in LA because I think they're going to try to go all in on Harbaugh to get him to come there.
I agree.
Uh, I would like to see him go to Dallas, but this is the reason why I don't think that's going to happen is because I don't think Jerry's going to relinquish enough control of the team to satisfy him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had Jimmy Johnson in there before. He's had Bill Parcells, but Bill Parcells also told him to, go take a hike after he wouldn't give him enough control, right? Like I don't know. I just don't
Yeah.
see Belichick as a guy that's like, oh yeah, I'll let you work me like a marionette. It's just not going to happen. Uh, yeah, I don't know, man. Like I could see him in Seattle. That could be a fit. And like you could tell me that he ends up signing with Atlanta and he's happy there and does very well. I for me, I think I don't see him in places like Carolina or Washington. Um,
No.
but I don't know. I think he's going to go to a place that does have talent where he can build a good squad. And I could I could eventually see him coaching another 6, 7 years,
Yeah.
if the situation's right for him. So, um,
I think for me, I think he ends up in Dallas, because I think what ends up happening is Jerry Jones, whatever soul that he has left, I think he's going to sell it to the devil.
yeah,
Because, like, if you're him, Just give him a blank check. That man, that man has won 6 Super Bowls, eight if you include the two as an assistant.
Hmm.
You give that man whatever he wants.
But this is the issue that I see. And listen, I want him in Dallas because I think you give him a guy like Micah Parsons, and he's unbelievable. I definitely
Yeah,
think he'll scheme him into ways that have never been seen before. But my concern about it is Jerry does his own podcast. Jerry is the complete opposite of what Bill is, and that's Bill's not going to put up with that of, oh, okay, you're out there talking about the team, grading me every week. Good luck. Like, what do you know about football compared to me? I could see that becoming an issue. And I don't think Bill would say that, but he's like, like he could think it, right? Like, I think that
yeah.
could pose a lot of problems. So I think there's going to have to be a lot of give and take if he's going to end up in Dallas.
Where I want him to go, and this isn't going to
Yeah, yeah.
happen
Where is that?
because I don't. I want him to go to the Eagles, and this is
Oh,
why.
okay.
I I I, I don't think they're going to fire Sirianni. I don't. When it's all said and done, I think he keeps his job because that
Hmm.
man just took that team to the Super Bowl under 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but in a perfect world, you give Bill Belichick that defense. Tell me he doesn't get the most out of them.
Well, he needs
Tell
it.
me that
They
if
need
he's
help,
coaching
yeah.
that team, tell me if he coaches that team last night, they miss that many tackles. I don't think that they do.
One thing I can tell you is they may miss that many tackles, but there would be that many less people on the team this morning. Um,
Yep,
and
yep,
if you know that that's the standard, you're not going to do it, right? Like it's
yep.
Um, I mean, we're gonna get into that game because that's an interesting one. But tell me, what do you think? Like Gerard Mayo is the guy that is the apparent heir successor. I mean, he was written in at the beginning of the year, which you had talked about it and given the example a few minutes ago about them playing 4D chess. That's really what it is, right? It's a very typical
Yep.
Patriots fashion, be 2, 3 moves ahead. Um, I loved him as a player. I thought he was incredible coming out of Tennessee, like just a great instinctive linebacker and always was in Belichick's pocket, right? Like this was a guy
Yep.
that was he Belichick knew he could rely on him. Um, so how do you feel with him being in there?
I feel good about that. I think a little part of me was hoping that Vrabel would take the job,
Hmm.
because that just seemed like that made the most sense. Vrabel being one of the best Patriots ever, him kind of like a homecoming. Um, that being said, Gerard Mayo's been on the staff for quite a long time. He was a really good player for the Patriots. Career cut a little short because of injuries,
Yeah,
but that guy when he was healthy and playing was always the brain of the
yeah,
defense.
he was a
Like he
savage,
called
man.
the plays. He was always in the right place at the right time, and he's been on the staff for a while now. And the rumor had been for a while that he was going to be the successor. And so I'm glad to see that actually came to fruition.
Yeah,
I do have a fun Gerard Mayo story. Can I tell? It takes
yeah,
like
yeah,
2 minutes.
yeah. Sure.
So second Giants Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Okay. The one where we take the safety to start the game. Weird Super Bowl. Okay, so that season and like all season, or sorry, in the playoffs, I had a Gerard Mayo throwback '85 Patriots jersey. Like the red one,
Yep.
and I hadn't
Hmm.
washed it once. Okay, hadn't washed it once all throughout the playoffs. Super Bowl Sunday rolls around. I'm like, well, got some laundry I'm gonna do. It's fine. Throw in the laundry, throw it in the dryer. I take the laundry out of the dryer and I'm folding it as I like am taking it out. And
Hmm.
I had accidentally washed the Gerard Mayo jersey and it had shrunk.
Oh no.
Giants win that Super Bowl, man. And
Oh
that's
man,
yeah, yep.
the curse.
And and that kids is why you don't fuck with superstition in the playoffs.
Yeah, you gotta do what's working right
Yep,
for you. So
yep.
yeah. Well, man, it's going to be interesting to see how he does, but yeah, I'm excited for it. Good young guy in the league that's going to have a chance to really make his mark, very much like Demico Ryans and some of the other guys that are real young that are making their mark on the league. So be
And
exciting to see what he
we
can do.
we have a high draft pick this year, which
Yeah.
means there's a good chance we don't trade down for once.
Yeah. I mean, you may end up with a GM before the draft too. Who knows?
Baby steps, man. Baby
Yeah.
steps.
Right. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's hop into this wild card round before we go and break down the games. I just want to, break down some of the results, some big surprises that we had. This is our BBB segment, big but brief, because we want to hit
Yeah.
on these and get some big hits out, but we also want to be able to really give you the good goo coming up. So, with Cleveland at Houston, listen, for me at least, listen, Houston looked real good and dominant. I mean, the two pick sixes. I was kind of wondering at the end of that game, like who had the best defense, right? Um, it just it was kind of crazy, and I mean, I just say like I just mentioned him before, but D'Amico Ryan's like I think he locked up Coach of the Year with that game. Now I realize it's a regular season award, but what he was able to do, especially as a rookie head coach with a rookie quarterback, and be able to come from winning what 3 games last year to winning the division, just insane, very impressive. So what did you end up seeing in the game?
The bloom came off the rose for Flacco, man.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
and it was kind of a little tough to watch because Cleveland kind of hung around for a little while in this game until the third quarter, and then back to back pick sixes, man. Like
Yeah.
that was it. That was it, and it was demoralizing. And I'll say this too: the crowd in Houston was nuts.
Yeah.
They hadn't had playoff football in a while, and they were ready.
You know,
They were ready.
I joked around with John because after the this weekend of football was over, I think Houston ended up stealing some Dallas fans in Texas.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're like, "Oh, this is the team we should be following," because they looked amazing. They really
No,
did. Um,
and D'Amico Ryans too. I can't say enough about the coaching job that he did. He had these guys so prepared
mhm.
that it felt like they were just anytime Cleveland called a play, Houston felt like they were in the backfield or like they just knew the play before it was coming. It felt like, and
Yeah.
they just flustered Flacco all day. And Flacco, while this was a good story and a good, a fun fun thing to pass the time this season, you know, he ultimately reverted back to the Joe Flacco we know and love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Well, let's move on. So we got Miami and Kansas City, and that was kind of an interesting one because record low temperatures that they had, and like Miami's really super hot offense was just froze out in that Kansas City cold. Like
yeah,
it was kind of sad to watch. I mean, Kansas City actually looked good on offense, just not in the red zone. I mean, and for me, listen, field goals just don't win games in this league. They're
yeah,
great. It's awesome to get 3 points, but you need to be punching in touchdowns because yeah, maybe that worked against Miami. It's not going to work against some of these other teams like Baltimore or Buffalo. So, what did you
yeah.
end up seeing in this game?
Uh, this game, I don't think this game was reflective of what actually could have happened because I think this game could have gotten a lot worse if Kansas City had been able to punch in convert some of those field goals into touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
Tua just had no answer for anything, and they're going to have to pay that guy soon. And Miami's going to have to take a real hard look at to figure out, is this the guy we're going to give $200 million to? Because respectfully, Tua's starting to get the rub of guy that can't win anything. And I
Yeah.
know that Waddle wasn't 100% and Tyreek Hill's nicked up, but they just didn't have it. And like defensively too, like you'll never know what could have been this year with the amount of players on defense that got hurt with Miami.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just they limped into the playoffs, and you kind of knew once you figured out how cold this game was going to be. Miami didn't stand a chance.
Right. Well, and that's the tough thing to see them go through, but I know Mike McDaniel, he's already working to figure out what they've got to do next year to be able to go on. So, because
Yeah,
it's not acceptable for him in his mind. getting a wild card round exit. Like that's just not
Yeah.
acceptable. So, but let's move on. So we got Pittsburgh at Buffalo, and listen, I mean we've talked about this a few times already, but Buffalo just dominated this game from the get-go. I mean, like yes, the score ended up being close, but I mean Buffalo was up 21-0 before Pittsburgh even got on the board. Like it just. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like Allen played very well, tossed 3 touchdowns, added that long score on the ground, like looked really, really good. And it's amazing how good that team can look when he doesn't turn the ball over. Like that's, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, what did you think from that game?
I think th- I want to give one positive and one negative about Buffalo. I'll start with the negative. I don't love how they let Pittsburgh come back roaring back in this game.
Yeah,
Like they were up 21-0, and they should have been able to just like step on their throats. And then it got to 21-17. And for a minute there, I was like, is Pittsburgh really going to do this?
yeah,
So that's a little concerning because they're going to face Kansas City next week
hmm,
or this weekend. And that's, if you're going to try to like just kind of let a team hang around, the last guy you want to do that with is Patrick Mahomes. Um, but the positive is they ran the ball down Pittsburgh's throat. I know
yeah,
there was no TJ Watt. I understand that,
hmm,
but they just manhandled Pittsburgh,
yeah, they did.
and they showed why they were number one in the league in rushing. Like it makes sense, and like there's a recipe. There's a blueprint for them now.
Yeah,
Run the ball down their throats, get it so it's 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, and that's where Josh Allen really shines, and he can start taking off or bomb it down the field. So
right. Yeah. All right, so this is going to be a fun one to talk about, right?
woo,
Green Bay at Dallas, right? Like Green Bay did exactly what we said they might do, and that was go up 27-0 against Dallas, and then them just not be able to recover. And I mean, you look at it, D Dallas just they were stunned from that knockout punch. They couldn't. They were seeing stars the rest of the game. I mean, I just more important for me because everyone wants to turn this into a Dak Prescott sucks issue. More important than him not having a good game, I couldn't tell Micah Parsons was on the field. And
I'm going to say
like,
a thing about Micah Parsons. He, I think that there's a lot of stuff that doesn't get called on him.
okay,
And what I mean by that is I think he gets held what feels like every single play
mm-hmm,
because he's such a freak athlete. I'm not sure the refs know how to officiate him. It's kind of like the same thing with Gronk, Pete
yeah,
Gronk. Nobody knew how to officiate him. Like
it's like what's
and I think that's
enough?
kind of
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Like if you watch some of the stuff that was happening to him that game, like the dude was just out. Like he was getting close to love. The dude was just getting mugged.
hmm,
Like and I'm not going to make excuses because Dallas deserved to lose
yeah,
this
yeah.
game.
Their
They
defense
they didn't
sucked,
show
man.
up,
It
and Micah
was,
Parsons also didn't show up.
yeah,
He didn't. Um, that being said, I'm extremely impressed with what Jordan Love did. He came in, he was cool, calm, and collected. He made all the throws he had to. He didn't force anything.
off his back foot.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think he can get away with that against the 49ers.
yeah,
But also, it helped that they ran the ball the way they did.
hmm,
And secretly, I was hoping Green Bay was going to hang 50 on him. I
yeah,
really was. I
yeah,
kept waiting for it at the end.
yeah. It's
So,
I think they could have. So, well,
oh yeah.
let's talk about the most exciting game of the weekend, right? And this was obviously, as we talked, the best game of the weekend, hands down. You got
Mhm.
Stafford versus Goff, and it just wasn't a letdown at all. You got MCDC right there. He's just got some brass balls, man. He's not afraid to use them. Like on 4th and goal from the 2, he's going for it, and he
Yeah.
doesn't need the tush push to get it, right? So I mean, I look at it. Detroit hung tough. They won the game. But the Rams, they got nothing to hang their heads about. Like they really don't. An epic season.
No.
I think they overachieved. Maybe they will feel bad hearing that, but I think they surprised a lot of people with how well they played this year. And to be able to go into Detroit, deliver a blockbuster performance, and almost come away with a win, like it really, tip my hat to them big time. So, what did you think about that game?
This game felt like two teams that were pretty evenly matched. And if this game was played in LA, I think the outcome might have been a little different.
Hmm.
This felt like a coin flip game, and the way it played out definitely felt that way. Um, Big shout out for the Rams. Nakua had the game of his life.
Yeah.
That dude couldn't be covered.
He's been that way
Like if
all
they get
year, man. Like he's been so
yeah,
good.
if they had gotten anything from Cooper Cup, the Rams win this game
Yeah.
because Nakua did everything that he possibly could have.
Hmm.
And it just wasn't enough. And like Detroit, they take away the run. That's what they're really good at. Um, and Stafford took that weird hit early where he had the cut on his hand. And Detroit just did enough, man. Yeah, I kept waiting for Jared Goff to throw like a pick. He
Hmm.
doesn't do it, and I'm really happy for Detroit, man.
Yeah.
And they get to host another playoff game too, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Which is kind of like
So
karma, right? Coming back around to like
yeah,
help them out. So good for them.
real quick,
Yeah.
did you see the Dan Campbell locker room speech
Yeah, I
after?
did. Yeah. It was special,
Incredible,
man. Super special.
incredible.
So very, very, very happy for them. Um,
Yeah,
all right. So the last game we had, right, was Philly at Tampa Bay. And, I'm going to ask you, like, what were some of your big takes on this?
I I watched the first half of this game with Buck and Aikman, and then the third quarter, Ray Lewis was on Manning Cast. So I was like,
Hmm.
I'm going to tune into that.
Yeah.
But that secondary missed so many tackles.
Yeah.
I like it was just bad fundamental football from them. And like that should be the most embarrassing part. Like, and my other big issue with this game is if you know that your quarterback has a busted finger, why aren't you trying to run the ball more? Like,
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like I was just confused watching this game, and like we had mentioned previously, right? Like this team was 10-1. They just dropped six out of their last seven. Like it was just
yeah,
a culmination of a really bad second half of the season, and they looked like the best team in the league at the beginning of the year, right? Or one of
mhm,
them, one of the top three. Um, it just it got bad, and then it got worse for them. Um, and their defense got heavily exposed. The
yeah.
lack of tackling is just poor fundamental football. Um, but the sad part is that's what we're talking about in this game, and we're not talking about like good for Baker, right? Like good for Baker, good for the
Yeah.
Bucks, good for their fans, like solid performance on offense and defense for this team. Like their defense can get some really solid pressure. Um,
What's scary with Tampa Bay too is they didn't even get really good games out of Evans and Godwin.
yeah, yep,
That's the scary part. If they can figure out how to unlock those two, like, oh man, like,
yeah, it could be nuts for sure. All right.
yeah,
Well, before we get into the divisional round games, we just wanted to bring back a little segment, our minivan segment. Two in the front, five in the back. With the
what I
uh,
call a Friday for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, this happened on a Sunday, in Dallas, right? It was Sunday, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Saturday.
Saturday. Okay. Sunday for me.
Wait,
That's why. So, but listen,
no, it was yeah, it was Sunday. You're
it
right. Oh
was
my
Sunday.
god,
Okay.
I've
All
watched so
right.
much football. I've watched so much football the past 3 days. I don't know what was what.
It's been a blur, right? Yeah. My,
Yeah,
my my big thing for them and why Dallas is the team, like they just got absolutely crushed, right? Like, and I look at it like I just don't know how you don't adjust on defense. Um, I mean these Green Bay was running the ball down your throat, and you leave six defensive backs on the field for all but six plays in the game. Like you
yeah.
you can even see it up near the goal line. Like they've got a defensive back in the middle. Like you can tell they're going to run the ball right up, and if Aaron Jones doesn't trip over his own lineman, like it's an easy walk-in touchdown for him. Which he still scored, but made it look dramatic in doing so. But I don't know. Like we talked about it a little bit before about McCarthy and stuff, and Belichick probably being a consideration. But I don't know. They might move on from Dak too. Like I think his contract is up now after this year.
He's got 1 year left.
Does he have one
He's
more?
got 1 year left on his.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, because he signed it in 2021. That's right.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I think the reason they thought about moving on from him, I think his cap hits like over 60 mil next year. Uh, and that's I think
yeah.
63. That's just a lot to pay a guy that you're not certain of. And if Bill comes in there, I think he stays. I think he does.
I think he does too. Yeah.
Um,
I think the problem I had with Dallas was that just if they're running the ball down your throat, just put 6 or 7 in the box. Like
yeah.
that's basic math, just basic logic and math. Like
Even more than
just
that. More than that.
yeah,
Do something because like they just didn't change. It,
yeah,
like I'm not a defensive coordinator, but I can sit there and watch the game and be like, guys, what you're doing right now is not working. I think they said Green Bay averaged 9.5 yards per carry on first
yeah,
down. On first down. What?
yeah.
Like that's
Well, Olson was
insane.
even Greg Olson was even confused and called it up multiple times, just being like, "Hey, why aren't they putting 8 in the box?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
if Nick Jordan Love beat you in the air, and
Hmm.
which he kind of did, but like, I think the score's a little closer if you just sell out to stopping the run.
Yeah.
Like, make it 3rd and 7 for Jordan Love, and make him have to make a play.
He, like you said, he felt comfortable because like they didn't do anything to make him feel uncomfortable. Like his offensive
Yeah,
line was played a great game, but still, th- he made plays when he had to. Like you got no pressure on him. It just, I don't know, man. Anyhow, so yeah, Dallas wins the minivan. It's they, that's them, and they're gonna spend the whole year in the minivan trying to figure it out. So, uh, but let's start for the premier part of the show, right? Moving into the divisional round. First matchup we've got is Houston at Baltimore.
Woo.
This is going to be Saturday at 4:30, and I will be there
Mhm.
to watch it at
Yes,
4:30.
sir. Woo.
Baltimore, they're getting 9 points. The over/under is 45.5. I don't know. Like, I really appreciate what Baltimore did this year, at least for me, because they made it easy for us because they've beaten all the top teams this year. It simplifies our job because we look like geniuses, right? And not only can we call them Super Bowl favorites, but we can feel comfortable doing so. It makes it very easy for us to be able to say that. But then on the other side, you've got right. Houston is the feel-good story of the NFL, very similar to the Lions, but with a different storyline. The rookie head coach meets with the rookie QB and sparks joy into a city that really needed a rebound since their last quarterback. And I just look at that. It's like two great stories meeting. It's kind of disappointing they're meeting in this round, but if you want to get to the dance, you gotta beat the best teams to get there. So, um, let's go ahead and start with Baltimore, right? Like, I mean, they boast the league's top defense and the likely MVP winner this year on offense. So, I just like first want to say like Lamar is impossible to game plan for uh,
Yeah.
because there's no one like him, dude. Like what he does with the ball in his hands is just simply special. Like what do you see in him?
Lamar is just a smarter version of the dude that won the MVP 4 years ago. Like
Ooh, I like that.
and I know I've talked about this before. 2019, his first instinct was to take off and run.
Hmm.
Now he goes through his first, second, third, fourth reads, and he has better weapons this time around than he does in 2019.
Yeah.
Um, and he has a defense that respectfully is carrying this team. Like offensively, they're fourth in the league right now. They're
Hmm.
averaging 28 points a game. They're doing all the things, but this defense is number one in the league for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that is really the bread and butter of Baltimore. And respectfully, that's they're like for as good as Lamar is, this defense is going to be the reason they either win or lose this game.
Yeah. I mean, I just got to bring it up about Lamar because I saw it a few weeks ago. I can't remember if I told you about it or not. Maybe you saw it in the game, but like, did you see the game that he had against the Dolphins where like he drops back as if he was left-handed and like swivels
Yeah,
his shoulders and then throws a 75-yard touchdown pass to Flowers? I was just like, what? Like
and that
I
and that throw was a dart.
yeah, yeah.
Like that was on a
Just
line. Like, whew.
I mean, that's the reason I brought that up is because when you talk about him being a smarter version of the guy that he was previously, like that's what we're talking about. Like a lot of that Todd Monken deserves credit for too, right? Like definitely deserves a tip of the cap because what he's been able to do with this offense, not just the playmakers, right? But he's unlocked the potential of him Lamar becoming a solid passing quarterback, but also what he's been able to do with the blocking schemes and this offensive line. Like it's been incredible to watch them this year.
Yeah, I it's it's bananas to me what he's been able to do. Offensively, like they've unlocked something with Lamar. And because
Hmm.
remember early on, how early was it that Gus Edwards went down? Like he went down pretty early in the season, and
Well,
we were like,
so J.K. Dobbins went down real
"Oh,
like
I'm sorry,
yeah,
that's who it
yeah,
was."
first game of the
Sorry.
season, first game of the season, and like I think it was the first quarter that he went down and tore his Achilles.
Yeah,
Um, and that was phew, that was tough because he was going to be the guy that was going to carry the load for them this year. And then Bus Edwards steps in and is like, "Not my team now." So it's
yeah. And then they lost Mark Andrews, which I think you and I thought that was it for them.
yeah, I mean he's
Like,
back now. He's back, which is
I don't know how much they're.
they said he was
I don't know
running
how much they're
routes
going
in
to.
practice. He was taking hits and looks good. I'll tell you, like he suffered a gruesome ankle injury 2 months ago. If he is back and catching balls, I would be so happy. He's an amazing football player to watch. He just is, man.
Yeah, I think yeah I don't expect them to get much out of Andrews, and I say that only because like the dude hasn't played in 2 months. He's going to be
Yeah.
rusty.
Could be rusty,
Like
yeah.
you can have all the reps you want in practice, but like
Hmm.
you can't simulate actual real game experience.
I agree. And I'm not going to say he's immune to that. He's just, when I look at him, I see him as a monster playmaker and a touchdown addict. So, like, he just, Lamar loves him too. And that's the piece that, like, kind of leaves me hopeful that he'll be all right. But again, like, there is that rust. That's a real thing that does happen when you're out for 2 months.
Yeah, yeah, it's I I know we're going to talk about the Texans in a minute.
Hmm.
The thing that worries me with Baltimore,
Hmm.
this team, this just feels like 2019 all over again.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is in 2019, they had the number one offense, number three defense. They had a dude in Lamar who is going to be the MVP of the league. They're playing an upstart. They in 2019 they played a young coach, Mike Vrabel, upstart team with a good defense that nobody was really talking about. It's 2023. They're playing Houston, and this team has the number one defense and number four offense right now in Baltimore. They're playing an upstart team in Houston with an upstart head coach, underrated defense. This
Yeah.
just reeks like this is history repeating itself.
Yeah. I hope not. I think the saving grace, like you had mentioned previously, is it's going to be the defense, right? Like you had mentioned, they gave up the fewest amount of points. They have the most sacks at 60 in a season. Like that's,
Yeah,
I mean, they know how to get after it. And look at the longevity of the season, right? One game longer than it was last year, but the amount of times they gave up more than 20 points was very rare. They haven't given up 20 points in the last month. I mean,
yeah,
they held both the Dolphins and 49ers to 19 points each. You know, I mean, and they both have great offenses. I don't know, like they know how to tighten things up around the goal line, and when you have linebackers like Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, and Jadavian Clowney, I mean, Clowney's been reborn, man. It's like he's a rookie again, and it's just like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to take all that knowledge I had before and just apply it to this year. And
yeah.
I mean, their secondary's loaded too, right? Like Kyle
Mhm.
Hamilton's been a beast, and I mean that's one thing I wanted to ask you. I didn't get to ask you previously, but if he's not in this game, like I know he's listed as questionable, if he doesn't play, like how do you think that impacts? And like it definitely bodes well for Houston, but how do you think that's going to impact this defense?
I think that's gonna if Kyle Hamilton's not playing, I think that puts a bigger emphasis on the front seven to really get after CJ Stroud.
Hmm.
Because if Stroud's gonna have that clean pocket and you don't have a guy, you don't have to worry about a guy like Kyle Hamilton, that suddenly means you can kind of throw on these guys.
Yeah,
Now I know that the counter to that is Houston doesn't have anybody to really throw to other than Nico Collins.
yeah,
But you just kind of watched in that Cleveland game, it didn't really matter.
yeah.
Like
He threw to the open guy.
it Cleveland's defense is built a lot like Baltimore's defense.
Hmm.
And I thought that Cleveland's defense was going to be a real issue for for Houston, and it wasn't.
So did
Like
Vegas.
Stroud had, yeah, Stroud had all day to
Yeah.
just do whatever he wanted to do. And
Hmm.
if they're going to get good blocking, like, and Hamilton's not playing, like this game could get kind of weird for Baltimore.
Yeah, it
And
definitely could.
also, other thing with Lamar, I think there's a lot of pressure on him this game. He's got a 1-3
Yeah.
playoff record. And if you don't think people aren't talking about that, he doesn't hear that, like, you got another thing coming. Like, Houston's playing with house money at this point.
Yeah, they
They've
really
got
are.
nothing to lose.
They
And a
really
team like
don't.
that's dangerous.
Yeah,
So,
that's I'm glad you mentioned that, and that's kind of I think how D'Amico Ryan's coaches is that like, hey, listen, they say we don't deserve to be here. They say we're not good enough to be here. Let's go out and show them. And C.J. Stroud plays like a veteran in the league. I know he's a rookie. He's gonna make mistakes. Like we saw that during the middle of the season where like he throws interceptions. He can do that, but he's a guy that strikes me as someone that really learns a lot. And like if you look at learns from his mistakes. Like if you look at his stats side by side with Lamar, like forget the rushing upside that Lamar has. He has better quarterback numbers than Lamar. Like as a
yeah.
rookie, man. Like he just and okay, Lamar's never been a premier passer in the league, but C.J. Stroud had better numbers than a lot of guys in the league. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. Like you look at it and it's just like, holy cow! Like this guy's incredible. I mean, to me, what I see when I look at him is he's one of the best processors when it comes to decision making that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Uh yeah, it's gonna be interesting. This I think this game's gonna get real weird.
Hmm.
And I think if Baltimore lets Houston hang around even after the first quarter, I think you're going to see Baltimore get uptight, and I think you're going to see Lamar start making some Lamar decisions that are a little uncharacteristic.
Lamar of the past, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, because you can't tell me that's not weighing on him. You
yeah.
can't. Like that's especially if you're now a two-time MVP who who can't win in the playoffs. Boy, that's going to really yeah. I I
Well,
think I think Baltimore wins this game. I don't trust it though.
yeah.
I don't trust it.
Well, I mean,
So
there's a lot to be said about that, right? And so like, I mean, even Houston's got to do some things right on their end, right? They're going to need to run the ball. I mean, Devin Singletary's run
yeah,
the ball decently well, but he's not a Christian McCaffrey. He's not, like he's not a stud running back. They're going to have to do that, and he's going to have his work cut out for him. So will this offensive line against this defense. But one of the things that I think doesn't get talked about enough when we talk about Houston, because so much emphasis is on C.J. Stroud, is their defense. Right, this is one of the strong suits of the team. Like, and go figure. Like, D'Amico Ryan's is a was a linebacker for Houston, but like he's a defensive minded guy. Like, go figure they're going to be good at defense. I just look at
yeah,
this line that they have. I mean, it starts up front with Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins. They know how to be able to get after the quarterback and not only get after them, but actually sack the quarterback, which is a big thing for defensive tackles to be able to do that. But I just one thing that's kind of crazy is if, and I don't think a lot of people realize it, is if CJ Stroud was not on this team, people would talk a lot more about Will Anderson. But because CJ
Yep.
Stroud's there, no one, like, people just almost forget about him. But he's been excellent, excellent. And he's done it in CJ Stroud's shadow. And like, I don't know, like, he's definitely in the running for rookie of the year. I don't think he's going to win it, but like, he's in consideration. He's had that good of a season, you know? Like, what have you watched much of him this year?
Yeah, he's a guy that does a lot of things that don't show up on a stat sheet.
Hmm.
He's the guy that's he's eating a lot of double teams this year.
Yeah.
And what that does, that doesn't show up on a stat sheet, but what that does is frees up a lot of other guys for one-on-one matchups. And that's how they're really getting to the quarterback. And the thing is like Will Anderson's still getting his numbers.
Yeah.
And I remember Houston trading Arizona up to 3 to get this pick so they could take him and being confused about it because I in my brain is like, does Houston think that they're going to contend? Because this you make that move if you think you're going to contend this year and
Yeah,
make the playoffs. And
they
again,
did.
this is why I only watch football and don't have a real job in football because
Yeah.
I they knew something that we didn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, but Will Anderson's been a beast this year. And like, I don't think he's going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year because the Rams drafted a couple of dudes that, like, respectfully are probably going to win it.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, Will Anderson's been a big reason why this defense actually has respect, and
Well,
you
and
have to take them seriously.
yeah, and I mean, speaking of two guys that absolutely love him, Steven Nelson and Derek Stingley, like, they just, I mean, they've not only formed a great duo, um, with like their 4 and 5 picks that they've had on the year in the secondary, but like, those guys up front getting after the quarterback, it makes their job a lot easier. They've made it very difficult for wide receivers this year, and like, I think they're going to be able to match up very well against this Baltimore team. I just, I mean, what do you think? Like, do you see the receivers being able to run free in this secondary? Because I don't know, Nelson and Stingley, they're good.
I Zay Flowers being a rookie, I think that I think he's going to have some issues in this game because I think Houston's secondary is good enough they can take him away because I think he's the guy that you have to worry about in this Baltimore offense.
Hmm.
No disrespect to OBJ, but like I don't really worry about him the way I do
Yeah.
about where is Zay Flowers on at all times.
Hmm.
Um, I think that Zay Flowers is going to have to work for every single yard he gets against this Houston secondary because this is a D'Amico Ryan's defense, which means if you gain 5 yards on them, boy, you're really going to have to earn it, and they're going to hit you in the mouth while doing it. Like,
Yeah.
and they are going to make it a long day for you.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I just want to go over some keys to the game that we've got here, right? So, like, for the Houston defense, I was asking, are they going to be able to get pressure on Lamar, kind of force him into making some mistakes? And not only that, but can they capitalize off of those mistakes? Just because I think it's important, not only it's great to get turnovers, but what do you do with those? Because every possession in the playoffs really matters. It matters
Yeah.
a ton. When it comes to the Houston offense, like, can they put up touchdowns, or are they gonna get is Stroud gonna get rattled by this Baltimore defense? Because I mean, it's it's very good, right? It's the elite of the elite in the NFL. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I know the pressure's on Baltimore, but I feel like they just need to continue to show up and do what they've done all year. And if they're able to do that, I think they have a better chance of winning this game. Um,
Sure.
so who do you? I think you said before you got Baltimore winning this, right?
I've thought about this, and they should win this game. I'm actually not going to take them. I'm going to take Houston.
Oh man, I'm so glad you did, because I said last week I was like, I can't keep picking against CJ Stroud, and I was right. So I'm gonna ride with Houston too, because
Yeah.
I just think, like, the momentum is a very difficult thing to account for. You can be a better team and momentum still takes you under. So.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think, too, real quick with the Ravens, and we're going to
Yeah.
talk about this with the 49ers. The Ravens are a team, weirdly, that if they're down 10 nothing, they sometimes have a hard time figuring out how to get back from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And that and that's concerning. And I could very well see Houston getting out to a 10 nothing lead early, 13 nothing, and Baltimore just panicking.
Well, part of the reason is those teams don't play from behind that often. And
Nope.
I think they really struggle when they're in that because it's foreign territory for them. But yeah,
Mhm.
we'll definitely discuss a little more of that when we talk about San Francisco because they're another team that really struggles with that. But dude,
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'll be texting you all game on that one. So, all
My
right.
God.
So the second game we've got is Green Bay at San Francisco. This is going to be a Sunday night game at 8:15. San Francisco's getting 10 points on this, and the over/under's 50 and a half. But as you look at this, like Green Bay, they're a victim of their own success, right? Like, congrats on beating Dallas, a team most people didn't think you were going to beat, and now you get to face the number one seed, the juggernaut 49ers. When it comes to Green Bay, and I know this is an interesting one for us to talk about because it's not a team we talked about a lot this year, but Jordan Love looks like a franchise quarterback, and like I know there was a lot of people that were skeptical of that at the beginning of the year, but it's just proof that things take time, man. Like he's really gelled with the rookies in this offense, like Musgrave, Reed, and Kraft. I mean, they're all rookies, and they've all found success within this offense. But he seems like a really good guy, um, in the club, like right, like in the clubhouse, all of that stuff. Like he's just a, geez, I'm using baseball terms, but in the locker room, like he just seems like a really a guy that a lot of people have bought into. What are you seeing in Jordan Love?
He's a guy, right before Thanksgiving, the Packers were like, what, 2-6 or something like that? Like,
Yeah.
something like they were just struggling hard. And I
Was that when
remember
they
we
played
talked about it
Detroit?
Thanksgiving. Yep. And you
Okay.
and
All
I were
right. Yep.
like, oh man, this is gonna be a cakewalk for Detroit. Like Detroit's gonna just walk all over them. And then they came in and they were up 21 nothing on
Yeah.
Detroit before you even blinked, and you were like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
And that really turned their season around. And Jordan Love, like I agree with you. It just takes a little bit of time. And it seems like that Green Bay has figured it out again with quarterbacks. God damn it. God damn it.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, he sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a few years. He learned from him. Aaron Rodgers, shitty human being, but good football player. And so he got to pick his brain. And I think you're really seeing it with him. He didn't get what I like about Jordan Love is if you just look at his body language and you didn't know what the score is, you couldn't tell if he was up 30 or down 20.
Right. He's so cool all the time. All the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And it's, I think that's a thing with like the newer quarterbacks in this league. They just all come in with like all this poise, and I think that's really impressive. Like Love went into Dallas and that place was loud at the beginning of
hmm
the game,
Yep.
and in a playoff game, and shut everyone up in about 15 minutes.
Yeah. People were crying
Yeah.
in the stands. It was,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
And
he's awesome.
I think this is going to be his biggest test to date because we're no offense to that Dallas defense, but the defense he's about to face,
Has six or seven all pros on it.
as a defense, this defense is full of men, is
Yeah.
what this is.
Yeah.
And this is a defense that will try to hurt you. And just they just want to hit you. That's all they want to do.
Yep.
Like you've heard that Nick Bosa clip.
Yeah, it's
He's like,
so good.
man, all I want to do is hit the quarterback, man. It's harder than it looks. But he makes it look pretty easy. So
Yeah, he does.
yeah, so I'm actually a little worried. I think Jordan Love's going to be fine, and I think the
Hmm.
Packers will hold their own. But he is going to be under duress
Yeah.
all day.
It, it's interesting too because like so Aaron Jones had a great game against Dallas, right? Like the three touchdowns,
Mm-hmm.
he looked really good. Like he looked healthy, he was running hard, powerful. Like I just he's not I don't think he's going to be able to do that against San Francisco. I I'm just not convinced. Like they're going to have to figure out other ways, and it's going to put more pressure on Jordan Love because when you can't run the ball at 9 yards a clip, or on first down, or be able to get that chunk yardage at the beginning, it's going to put more pressure on your quarterback. And San Francisco's a defense that they get you in third and long. Good luck, man. Um,
Yep.
it's going to
Yep.
be
If they
tough.
get you in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you know what's coming, and I hope that you can get rid of the ball very quickly.
Yeah. Well,
So
this Green Bay defense, like I got to ask you first because I got some good notes on them, but like, what are your thoughts on this defense?
I think that like if you looked at this is the game against Dallas is a the stats don't tell the whole story of this
Hmm.
game,
Right.
because if you just looked at the stats and you looked at the score of this game, you're like, boy, this game was a shootout. That's actually not true.
Hmm.
Green Bay just let up a ton of garbage time points,
Right.
which a little concerning in kind of their own right. But they really kind of had Dallas in a chokehold for a good portion of this game. Um, they are very much a bend but don't break defense.
Hmm.
You can typically throw on these guys, and you can run on these guys. I am a little worried that I don't necessarily know how they're going to get to the quarterback. I know they've had 20 sacks in their last like 5 games. I get
Yeah.
that. But like respectfully, this offensive line that San Francisco has, it's one of the best in the league. And I know Dallas, quote unquote, had the best in the league and they had like 3 all pros on it, but like respectfully, like this, I think San Francisco's line overall is a better line than Dallas's.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I mean, I look at it, and you brought up a good point about that. Like I thought they were pretty bad for the majority of the season. They're just wildly inconsistent, right? And like
yeah,
you brought it up perfectly. Like the garbage time touchdowns, like they yielded 16 points to Dallas's offense until 6 minutes in the fourth quarter. So like I don't put much
mhm.
stock into like the two garbage time touchdowns. Like that doesn't mean anything to me. Like how did you play for the majority of the game? Because Dallas wasn't coming back in that game. I get it, but I mean the thing for me is like this defense in just the past month, like they've given up over 30 points 3 times. Like why is this important? Well, because over the past month, San Francisco has scored over 30 points in every game they've played. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure that Green Bay can keep them under 30. Like they're going to need to do that in order to be in the game. And my concerns, like they don't force turnovers. And that's
no.
really difficult to win games if you don't if your defense doesn't force turnovers because San Francisco's defense will. And uh that's kind of tough.
In respectfully, like Brock Purdy, like I know, like you throw out that Baltimore game where he
Hmm.
had some like weird picks that
Four picks, yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
talked about. Were 2 of those weren't his fault. Purdy doesn't let it throw, like he doesn't make a lot of
No,
mistakes,
he doesn't. He's very smart.
which means
Hmm.
you have to play even better football. And I just this offense, they just have the San Francisco's offense just has a lot of weapons. And if you're Green Bay, how do you stop all of them?
Yeah. It's really difficult to do
Because
that.
not many teams have really figured that out.
Well, that kind of
So
brings me into a nice little segue on that, right? So like is Brock Purdy going to be the weak link on this team?
I don't think so. I think we've seen enough of Brock Purdy. We've seen him do this in the playoffs. He had the run last year. This all sets up really well for San Francisco. They have home field throughout the playoffs. The teams that they really thought they had to worry about are already out of the playoffs in Dallas
Yeah.
and Philadelphia.
Yep.
Um, like this sets up really nicely, and if they can just focus and get their act together, like they have a like they could potentially, if they win this game, you're telling me they're going to play the winner of Detroit or Tampa. Like,
Yeah.
and respectfully to both of those teams, Nick Bosa will have a field day against either of those teams.
Yeah.
A field day eating those quarterbacks.
Hmm.
So this sets up really nicely for them. Purdy like got a lot of MVP buzz this year, where I respectfully don't get it because I think Christian McCaffrey was the MVP of that. Uh, it was the MVP of that team. But I think that Purdy is going to do everything that he can to put this team in the best position.
Yeah, it's
So
you know what's interesting when it comes to Purdy, right? Because like it's like an issue with people that they like can't conceptualize that like he could just maybe be a guy, right? Like they it's either like he's complete trash or he's MVP, right? And like I don't know.
yeah.
I have a slightly different take. So like just bear with me for a minute because I'm going to get into some stats that I did a little bit of research because I was
Ooh, yeah,
curious
yeah.
about it,
You know
right?
I love stats.
Yeah, so
You know
like
I love stats.
I mean, if you look at the stats, even though we just talked about the Baltimore game, like he's had a hell of a season. He really has. Like 4,300 yards. It doesn't matter how you get there. Like the no, just the numbers matter, right? 4,300 yards, 31 touchdowns, 11 picks. Like not bad for Mr. Irrelevant. First off, but just to
Yeah.
compare, let's run those numbers up against some guys, and just two guys, right? Brady and Manning, right? And granted, we're going back a couple years here. This is back in 2005, but both of them had been in the league 6 years at this point, so longer than Purdy. But the
Mhm.
reason I picked this year was because it was closest in terms of the stats that he had, right? So Manning in 2006 had 4,267 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 10 picks. Brady was 41-10, 26 and 14. So both of them were pretty close. Like, granted, this was almost 20
Yeah.
years ago, but those numbers were solid in that time. They really were.
And that's it. I was gonna say those numbers are even more impressive because throwing for 4,000 yards back in 2005 was
Yeah.
hard to do.
Well, and so this is the other piece of it, right? So like people make the argument that like, oh, all Purdy does is just dump the ball off at the line of scrimmage to like Debo, CMC, Ayuk, and they just get the yards after catch, right? But while we're still comparing these three guys, like Purdy, he averaged 9.6 yards per attempt. Manning averaged
Mhm.
7.5, and Brady was at 7.8. Brady had
Yeah.
Welker, Manning had Harrison, Wayne, Dallas Clark, and Brandon Stokely. And by the way, this was the year after Harrison, Wayne, and Stokely all went for 1,000 yards each. So like
Yeah.
that year, by the way, Manning went 4,227 touchdowns and 19 picks. Oh, and he averaged 7.1 yards per attempt. So it was less
Yeah.
than this year. Like it's just, I don't know. For me, like uh, granted, we're comparing two Hall of Fame guys to a guy that like has had a good season and a half so far, but I wish people would look past the numbers because if you have good guys on your, like for instance, good receivers on your offense, they're going to be able to take it to the house. Like
Mhm.
let's if we're going to talk about a stat, let's talk about average depth of target or something like that. Something where that would actually come into play. But the numbers that people were bringing up about Purdy, it's like you're not arguing about the right things when it comes to him. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
It it feels like he gets penalized for having really good players around him, and that's not his fault.
Yeah.
Like if you're every 31 other quarterbacks in the league would kill to have Christian McCaffrey as their running back
Hmm.
and Debo Samuel as their number one wide receiver.
Right.
People
Right.
would quarterbacks would kill for that.
It's your fault
Um,
that you got the ball to those guys and completed that pass, and then they took it in for a touchdown. Like,
Also, it's not their fault that they're so good that they just make a bunch of dudes miss.
yeah.
That's not their fault. Like,
Well, I mean, CMC, like, regardless of what people say, like, he's the best running back of our generation, right? Like, with the ball in his hands, like, I mean, okay, yeah, he gets hurt and that sucks, but when he's healthy, he's the best running back in football, and it's not even close.
yeah,
In my mind, like he has better hands than 95% of the guys that are quote unquote wide receivers in the league. So like
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
just he's got a nose for the end zone. The way he plays the ball, like he's just got this unfathomable potency of balance, speed, and power that is just unreal. Like he's
He's
awesome to
he's the
watch.
he's the guy that you have to worry about when you're if you're the defense. He's the guy you have to know where he is at all times.
Hmm.
And that's no offense to Debo Samuel. That's no offense to Ayuk or Kittle.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey is the guy you need to know where he is at all times
Well,
because
and
he can burn you as a wideout or he can run it down your throat.
and
Like,
you would think teams would know this, right? Like it's not like he's a rookie. I mean, he's been in the league what
yeah,
8 seasons now. He spent his first 6 with Carolina, which I mean, I had to check it because I wasn't positive, but like he actually wasn't in that Super Bowl when they played Denver. He got drafted the next year with the eighth pick in the draft. But like
Wait, really?
yeah, dude. So
Huh.
yeah, which is crazy. Like, see, I'm glad that I'm not the only one that thought that because I was like, oh, he was definitely on that team, but no, he wasn't. And like the only time he ever went to the playoffs, they played the Panthers in 2018. They lost. They played New Orleans in 2018. They lost to them. So it's like this guy. How couldn't you feel good for him? Like he needs. This guy's a good enough player that it's like almost like Dan Marino, right? You want to see them make it to the playoffs because you're like, man, these guys are such good players. They deserve to be there. They really do. Like J.J. Watt, I wish he had. I wish he made it to a Super Bowl, right? Like just to be able to play. Like I don't know. With McCaffrey, I want to see him on the biggest stage last game of the season, and I want to see what this guy does.
Yeah.
I
I
just,
mean, Christian McCaffrey, like the dude is averaging almost 5.5 yards a touch.
hmm
Like every time he touch, if you give it to him on first down, on second down, it'll be 2nd and 5 almost every time.
yeah,
Like, how do you, I'm really glad that he gets to be. I'm with you. I'm glad that he gets to be on the stage, and we're
yeah.
gonna get to see the kind of dude that he is.
He's super special, man.
And this is a 49ers team that, like, if they just stay healthy and nobody gets hurt, this should be their Super Bowl to win.
Yeah.
Respectfully, all they have to do is just stay healthy.
Yeah, I think Baltimore's still in front of them, but you know, like I think
I
they've got
Yeah,
something to prove with that because they got punched in the mouth there. So I just one thing I wanted to mention because we're talking about all these guys, right? Like Purdy, CMC, the receivers and stuff. Like a lot of what they do is made possible because of guys like Trent Williams, who is like he's a refrigerator of a man, right? Like, but he's
yes, sir.
definitely the captain of this great offensive line, and like you look at what he's able to do, and like the bus moves because Trent says so. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
like nothing happens because if he doesn't give sign off on it, and I just look at it for like other guys feed off of that, right? Like Debo, Ayuk, they're out there blocking their butts off. Kittle is a ferocious blocker as a tight end. He would rather go out there and block all day than catch the ball. He loves it.
yeah,
I mean, he takes great pride in it. And like you see that, the reason CMC has some of the success that he does is because he plays for a team where all 11 guys are like, even if Purdy needs to, he's like, dude, I'm going to block for you. Like,
yeah,
we're going to get it done. So, but I
yeah.
mean, the thing that I laugh about, Al, and I mean, we've talked about this team all year, but like, we're talking about the offense, right? And how great they are. That's not even the best part of this team, right?
Nope.
Like, the defense is ridiculous too. Like, you could argue that they're better, right? Like, I don't know. I just look at it and like, yeah, you've got Fred Warner and Nick Bosa up front. I just do not want to be an offensive coordinator trying to figure out how to block those guys.
And this team got to rest for a week
Yeah,
too, which is that's the last thing you want with this team. And I
yeah,
think too with this defense, if they can just rattle Jordan Love early, I think this game's gonna get out of hand quickly because like once you can rattle a quarterback, then he's gonna start throwing it quicker and quicker because he doesn't want to get hit.
you
And that's where the interceptions start.
You know what it reminds me of, man? Remember the Titans where Julius sacks the quarterback and he's like, "You better make yourself
Yeah.
real comfortable down there," right? Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, right? Like Eric Armstead, Javon Hargrave, like and Chase Young. Oh, and by the way, they can sub one of those guys out and throw in Randy Gregory too. Like, dude, like what? That's not fair. Not fair at all.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah. That defensively, like they're this is where they should make their money.
yeah,
Bosa signed that huge contract. This is where they're going to make their money now, and this is the perfect game for them to really show, hey, we're still one of the best defenses in the league. Here's why. And
yeah.
I think when it's all said and done, I think San Francisco is going to take care of business.
Yeah,
I do.
me too, man. Like I definitely think Green Bay comes back down to earth. So you're picking San Fran to win?
I'm picking San Fran to win. Yeah, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, me too.
yeah.
I think it's I mean it'd be foolish not to, right? Like that's what's gonna happen. So I definitely think they're gonna be the ones to take it. So and they'll be waiting to find out, right? Like well actually at that point they'll already know who they have the potential of playing, right? Because Tampa Bay and Detroit, they're
Yeah.
playing in the game before. So oh man. It's gonna be
All San
wild.
Francisco has to do is win, and they get to stay home.
Yeah. Yep.
Win and yep. All you gotta do is win, and you can sleep in your own bed for
But
another
could
week.
you imagine if
So
they lose and Detroit wins, then Detroit or Tampa Bay, either one of them, they would play at home through the well, if Detroit wins and Green Bay wins, Detroit would play at home. Tampa Bay would get a home
yeah,
game again against Green Bay if they win. I don't know, man, it's nuts. So, well, let's
the way these
let's
playoffs have gone, it wouldn't shock me at this point.
I know. Well, that's the next game we got. Tampa Bay at Detroit. They're playing Sunday at 3. Detroit's getting the 6 points. The over/under's 48.5 on that, which is kind of interesting. But like, I mean, we talked a little bit about Detroit before, right? They're riding that big. They're just on top of the world right now after that win. Like, you could hear the fans in there. It was, I mean, you even said to me like you were surprised that Stafford could even hear inside that building. It was so
It was
loud.
so loud,
Yeah.
and I knew it was loud because he was watching when he was like calling plays in the huddle, and he had to like get down on a knee and like lean in so everybody could hear him.
Yeah.
That's how loud it was getting in there, and it was just nuts.
Well, and I mean that's the fans that did that, right? And like I know
Yeah,
we shouted them out before, but let's give them another shout out, right? Like they got what they deserved in a banger of a game between their ex and their next. Uh, it just
yeah.
and
That's a
now
yeah. Oh,
now they get a second one, right? They get a second playoff game,
yeah.
which was what they hoped for after Dallas kind of fumbled that back into their hands. And I don't know, like MCDC man, he's a player's coach if I've ever seen one, right? Like I love watching. He's just filled with so much passion. I feel myself getting emotional every time I see him speak. But listen, I'll let you talk about him first. Like, what's your opinion of him and this Lions team?
I watched a clip the other day, and it was his opening press conference, and he talked about like, hey, if you knock us down, we're gonna get back up, but we're gonna bite you in the knees on our way back up.
Yeah.
And like that is the perfect description of this Detroit team. Like
Hmm.
they don't play games very pretty. Like they do a lot of things where like, boy, they kind of just eke that out. But they have a lot of grit to them, man. And that's exactly what Dan Campbell wanted with this team. He wanted to build this team as a team that, hey, you might beat us, but boy, you're going to be damn tired when you're done.
Yeah,
Like,
you're gonna have to work for it.
yep.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with with Stafford and the Rams. Like Stafford took a lot of hits.
Hmm.
He did. He took shot after shot after shot. Like, and that's what Detroit does, man. They will tire you out, and they're just going to keep hitting you. They are.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean a lot of things happened this week in that game, but like you were able to see it, like their offensive line, like they've got the best offensive line in football for a reason. I mean, they run the ball
Sure do.
ferociously. They've got two great backs with Gibbs and Montgomery who just they complement one another's skill sets very, very well. But the guys up front, and it starts with Frank Ragnow, like they're just maulers, man. Absolute maulers. Like Sewell, Decker, they're great tackles, but they are just ferociously clubbing people out there. Like it almost feels like a JV football team going into the club and the bouncers throw them all out, right? Like
Yeah.
they're just they are big men.
The
And I
amount of times on that line, the amount of times I see with that line where like Montgomery's just running and he already has gotten to the second level before
yep,
somebody touches him.
yeah.
And that is 100% because of that offensive line.
Well, and you bring up a really good point there because I again we had mentioned this earlier when we talked about Todd Monken, but like Ben Johnson deserves some serious credit on this team. Like what he's been able to do and accomplish with this offense, like he's put himself in position to be looking at a head coaching position in the offseason.
Yeah.
They're very good, man. Like they play very well together. And Jared Goff was the perfect guy for this team, right? Like I mean, it just what he's able to get out of him. Like Goff isn't a top five quarterback in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination, but he's playing well enough that this team is, and he's gelled well enough with this team that they're able to have success. And I mean, I look at it. He's got some great weapons, right? Like Amon Ra, Laporta. They just been key cogs for him moving the chains all year. I mean, Amon Ra plays with like this fire in his belly. Like I don't know if you've seen interviews with him, but like he knows the names of all 16 wide receivers that were drafted ahead of him.
Yep.
Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like not to mention the last time these teams played, he had a great game against them in the first meeting. Like I think he had like 12 catches, 120 something yards and a touchdown. Like he's
Mhm.
he's awesome to watch. I mean he really is.
Yeah, it's I'm glad that more people got to watch it on a national stage this weekend. That why Amon-Ra St. Brown is an All-Pro this year.
Hmm.
That dude, when you he's the epitome of, hey, it's 3rd and 6. I'm gonna get you 8 yards.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy. And the thing is like offensively, you know, or defensively, you know they're gonna throw it to him,
Hmm.
and that's great that you know that. But he is so strong, and the way he gets off the line and just burns defenders by throwing them aside, like you can't stop him.
Yeah.
Like I don't. That's the thing. Like you know they're gonna throw it to him, and you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Like good luck.
He's a very good route runner. I think it plays a lot to his skill set and stuff. But I mean, even the other guy, Laporta, right? Like it's hard to believe he's a rookie. Like we're already
Yeah,
talking about him as like one of the top tight ends in the league, and he just barely got there this year. I mean, I don't know. Um, but one thing I wanted to mention, and I don't want to backtrack too much, but just about Jared Goff, like I think there's very few quarterbacks in the league that needed a win against their former team as much as he did. Like
yeah,
for his own confidence, for the team's confidence, for all of that, I really saw that as an important thing.
yeah. I think too. The Dan Campbell locker room speech after, where he's like, "Hey, Jared Goff, you're good enough for Detroit," and hands him the game ball. Like
Yeah.
that was just like that's Dan Campbell recognizing the moment and understanding what Jared Goff went through the past week in the media.
Yeah, the past couple
Like,
years too, since he got traded, right? Like
yeah,
it's man, like it's like I said, it gets emotional when you talk about that. So,
yeah,
but well, listen, we got to talk about the defense, right? Like I know like this poses some concerns for people, but like this defense has been decent over the last month, the last 5 games, I guess you could say, like nine
mhm,
turnovers, which isn't great, but isn't bad either. But they've had 15 sacks over that time, and like I just look at it like they give up too much yardage for me to be happy, but they're finding ways to win. And I mean, when you've got guys like C.J. Gardner Johnson's back, he played very very well in their last game. Aiden Hutchinson, like this guy's just blossomed this year. Like
yeah. Yeah. Hutchins had what this year, like 11 and a half sacks for like a D lineman. Like that's
dude, he's on a 3 game multi-sack streak. It's,
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah.
he's
It's
he's just
insane.
he's playing really well, and then you got a guy on the back end like Brian Branch, and like he's had to exist most of this rookie year without CJ GJ back there. But I'm really shocked that he slipped down people's draft boards, and like this was a guy he was a stud in Nick Saban's defense rather, and I just when you captain a defense at Alabama, you know what you're doing. Like
Yep.
he's been very very good. He showed it in week 1 against Kansas City. Like this guy can hit, he can make plays, all of that. He's had to exist most of the year without his buddy back there, and like I don't know. I'm impressed by this defense what they've been able to do. They've grown a lot over the year.
Yeah. Yeah. He has played it, it's weird with Detroit's defense because, like, if you think of it as just a whole, they're very much they're fine. It's a bend but don't break.
Yeah,
But like, if you just like think about it and break it down, like we just did, the amount of just studs they have on defense, like if they can just like if they ever can just get like a complete game out of all of them, like they're just gonna pitch a shut. They could like if they could ever be that consistent, they'd be one of the best defenses in the league.
They really would.
Like, yeah,
And I
um,
think some of that
which
was injuries and stuff, but you're right, man.
absolutely,
Consistency would really work wonders for them.
yeah, and I think too, like to move it to Tampa's side, like Baker Mayfield played the game of his life last night,
Yeah.
and he's gonna have to do it again because respectfully, Philly didn't really send the house against him, which was weird. Um, but Detroit's going to send the house on him, and they're going to send the house to him often. Um, I was really impressed with what I saw out of him though,
Yeah.
he because obviously the name of the game is scoring points, and out of their first 6 possessions, they scored points on 4 of those.
Yeah, that's big.
And especially in the playoffs, like you just have to keep scoring points, and they just kept, even if it was just 3 points, 3 points here, 7 points here, like they just kept doing enough, and they kept just putting the game out of Philly's reach.
Hmm. Yeah, for
And then Philly kind of imploded in the second half. So
yeah, like, and that's we've kind of seen that, right? Like it's a tale of two halves
yeah,
with the Philly team. For me, listen, like Rashad White, like I love Baker. Like I think he's awesome. I've changed my opinion so much of him since he came into the league. I really didn't like him at all, but I've developed a liking for him because of some of the situations he's been in and how I've seen him be treated. And I think he's really risen above a lot of the crap to like establish himself in the league and found a home in Tampa Bay, and I'm happy for him for that. But Rashad
yeah,
White, man, like not only was he a big surprise in fantasy football this year, but like he's been a very solid back for Tampa Bay and done very well running behind this offensive line, who definitely needs some credit, right? Like they've played
yeah.
very well recently. Like they're Tristan Wirfs is the guy, and I love him because he's out of Iowa. There was, I think, some talk that when he was at Iowa, he was doing some of his workouts in the off season with the wrestling team, which
Yeah, that tracks. If you
if
look
you
at that
see,
guy,
yeah,
that tracks.
how big he is and how fast he runs, like for a tackle, unbelievable. So
Yeah,
I don't know, this offensive line, like they really do a good job of not only like you would mention it with Montgomery, right? Like he gets to the second level right away. Like part of the reason is like these linemen for Tampa Bay, like they get out in front of their blocks and they push them, right? Like
yeah,
I just I look at it like I know they've given up 11 sacks over the last month, but like some of that is attributed to Baker, right? Like he's a little sackable, but
yeah.
uh,
Like he's a guy that holds on to the ball a little too long.
yeah, but like
Yeah,
I think it's good. There's some good times to do it. I just saw some of the sacks that he took and they didn't look great, right? So it's like
yeah,
I don't know, but I don't know, man. Like he's got some great options there in terms of Mike Evans, Godwin. They're two great receivers, right? Like they give him a lot of benefit in that offense, and they've helped his stats quite a bit in making him into a good quarterback there. Um, and I mean, Godwin's been great when he's healthy. I just, I know sometimes he's a little banged up. He had the ACL, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, but like he's
mhm,
been very reliable, and I've loved watching him play. He's a lot of fun to watch. So,
yeah.
um,
Evans last night had this play.
hmm
They got, I think, I want to say it was like the third. It was definitely the second half. And Tampa got hit early with a holding penalty,
hmm
so it was like 1st and 20. And Evans gets a guy one on one, and he runs this go route and then stops on a dime and just completely fools. I think it's Bradbury. He just
yeah,
fools him completely.
yeah, I saw
And
that.
then Baker just throws like to the back shoulder, and Evans gets like 19 of those 20 yards back. And Evans, like he had a drop last night that on a big touchdown that,
Yeah,
oh,
yep.
and he doesn't do that often. Um, but
It was very close
Evans,
to a touchdown, if not one, right? Like it was right
yeah,
inside the five there for sure.
but Evans is the guy that like you just when you need a play, he's gonna be open because a
Yeah,
guy that size, all you got to do is just throw it up to him, and he's gonna go get it.
yeah,
And they didn't. He wasn't really used enough last night, and he was kind of kept in check. And Tampa still dominated.
Yeah.
which means that if they can somehow get Evans and Godwin going, ooh baby,
Yeah.
Detroit's gonna have a long day
Well,
defensively.
it's interesting too. Like they're so the offense is pretty good, but the defense is like in my mind like what really makes this team good. And like you mentioned it last week, like a lot of the members on this team are still from the Super Bowl, right? Like Vita Vea,
Yep.
Levanta David, Devin White, Shaq Barrett, Dean Winfield, and Davis. Like they're all like they've got
Yeah.
having Super Bowl experience on your team is invaluable. And like I just look at over the last 4 games that they've played, they've averaged giving up 11 points per game. Like you're going to win games doing that. So it's I don't know. I think they need to get more turnovers and they need to keep causing extreme pressure on teams. If they're able to do that, maybe they can rattle Jared Goff, but it did not work out the first time they played. I think these are different teams now than the first time they played
I
earlier
think
in the
so too.
year. But one thing,
Tampa last night was willing to blitz every play,
yeah,
and they were okay with that.
well, see, this is the thing too. So like they're very, very good at stopping the run. And that could complicate
Yep.
things for Detroit. So then it turns into, okay, well, we're going to pass. Um, but I don't know. Like I mentioned before about Amon Ra, like if it turns into a game like that, because last time they stopped the run, I think they only gave up 40 yards on the ground to Detroit. What did Goff do? Well, he still threw for 330 yards, something like that,
Yeah,
and
he torched him.
yeah, he torched him. So it's, I don't know, like there's a lot of things that I'm wondering about this. Like, can the Detroit defense, can they force turnovers? Can they force Baker into making some mistakes? Can Tampa Bay do that? Like, can Tampa Bay get the running game going? Like, there's so many questions about like what could happen in this, and like if Tampa Bay does stop the run, can they control Goff and Amon Ra? Because if they
Yeah,
can't, it's going to be really, really tough for them. So,
sure is.
who
Yeah.
who do you have winning this game?
So here's the thing: Detroit just played what was the equivalent of their Super Bowl,
Hmm.
and I respect that. And I think that that was a big game, and that the amount of pressure that was on them this game, they really had to get up for this game.
Yeah.
I think Tampa wins this game because I think they're like I don't know how you keep that up 2 weeks in a row. There's a law of averages says there's got to be a letdown.
Yeah.
Like that was their Super Bowl, and they played so hard, and they're just so emotionally spent after that game. How do you get up again for that? Now Dan Campbell's the guy that will figure that out, and he will get the most out of them. But I think that's a really big ask for Detroit, and I think Tampa does just enough to win this game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
I actually have Detroit winning this game. I think they're going to ride the momentum they have. I think it may end short next weekend, but I really want to see them win this week at home. It'd be
Yeah.
awesome to see that. So
Either way, it's a great story. Whoever wins this game.
it really
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
All right, so the last game that we have is Kansas City at Buffalo.
Woo.
Now, this is the one that we were hoping for at the beginning of the season, right? So
Yep.
this is going to be Sunday at 6:30. Buffalo. Wait, am I right about that, or is it?
No, it's in Buffalo.
Yeah, is it
It's
it?
in Buffalo.
It is Sunday at 6:30? No, I'm wrong on that. It's Saturday at 6:30. Yeah,
Hmm. Okay.
I think I'm wrong.
Excellent.
Yeah, sometimes we're wrong.
Well, either way, I'm just gonna spend all weekend watching football, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really
yeah.
matter. As long as there's a game on at 8 p.m. On Saturday night,
Yep,
and there's a game on at around like 6:30 on Sunday, I'm good.
we'll be
Like
good.
just give me football.
Yeah. So we're yeah, because it's AFCs are on Saturday, NFC games are on Sunday. So yeah, so we
Yeah.
got Saturday at 6:30. Buffalo's getting 3 points. The over/under's 45.5. And this just I don't know. To me, feels like the meeting of former Titans, right? Like these two teams, they've met in the playoffs the last few seasons with wild, wild outcomes, and they were instant classics. Um, do you think we're to expect another one like that in this game?
This has all the makings of it. It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be about 20 degrees. Um, and I'm just gonna say this: this is Buffalo's best chance. This is what they've
Yeah.
wanted another shot at Kansas City. They're going to get another shot at Kansas City, and they're going to get another shot at Kansas City at home.
Yeah.
This is all set up for them. This is everything they've wanted and asked for.
Hmm.
Now, can they come through? That's the real question.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to start for Buffalo, uh, with trying to figure out how to be able to contain Patrick Mahomes because, like,
Mhm.
as long as that guy's quarterback in your team, anything seems to be possible, and no one knows that better than Josh Allen. Um,
Yeah,
I just, I gotta ask, like, have you seen something out of Mahomes that he's changed this year, or do you think it's just kind of the team around him that's kind of been struggling?
I think he's really had to adapt this year. That game against Miami this past weekend, where it was really cold out, and all you just had to like score points any way you could.
Hmm.
And he was okay settling with a lot of field goals because I think he knew that respectfully Miami wasn't going to do shit on offense, and he was
Right.
right. Um, and I think he did just what he had to do because he was smart enough to realize, like, hey, we just got to keep chipping away, chipping away, chipping away. And they literally chipped away so much. Do you see the picture where a piece of his helmet? It was so
Yeah.
cold.
It was
Piece of his
wild.
helmet had chipped
Yeah, his
off.
helmet
Like it
broke.
was,
That was
yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
I was actually really impressed with Mahomes, and I know he didn't light it up numbers wise, but like I was actually really impressed with what he did.
Hmm.
That is the epitome of championship quarterback. The conditions are less than ideal, and he put the team on his back and he's like, all right, come on, boys. Like, we're not losing this game at home. We are not doing that.
It almost
Um,
reminded me of Brady a little bit in the
yep.
winter doing stuff like that. So, yeah. I mean, I,
Fun,
yeah,
fun Patrick Mahomes fact. This is going to be his first true road playoff game.
yeah, it will be, which is going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. Um,
Yeah.
he will have a healthy Isaiah Pacheco though, who seems like he's getting hot at the right time. I mean, like this guy runs like an excited toddler. Like it just, I mean, it seems to work for
Yeah.
work for
Yeah.
him, but
Yeah.
it's like Hezbollah suited up
Yeah.
and he's out there running. So it's
He looks like how I would run. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
excited all the time. But one thing, and I was just looking at some of the numbers for Kansas City this year. This was the first year in recent memory that that Kansas City did not have 1,000-yard receiver or tight end. Like, are you surprised by that?
Yeah. No, because I watched how many
Yeah,
times their receivers drop the ball.
yeah.
No, that doesn't shock me at all.
I mean,
Not at all.
there are stuff that bodes well for them, right? Like Rashee Rice, he's had at least 9 targets. Over he only had less than 9 targets once in the last 7 games, which is very impressive. Like they're throwing the ball to him a lot. And I think that was the last game of the season. I think he only had 6, maybe. But that game doesn't matter anyways. But it's a
Yeah.
really good time for him to become Mahomes' favorite target because they need it in the playoffs. Like, do you think he's going to be able to carry this receiver unit and kind of take some pressure off Kelsey, who like clearly doesn't look like himself?
He's gonna have to. Like he's gonna have to produce something for Kansas City to hang around in this game.
Hmm.
I think the thing that bodes well for Kansas City is, and no disrespect to Buffalo, but defensively they're not great. They're not. They have lost
Oh,
pretty much everybody and their mother due to injury.
oh, you're saying Buffalo?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah, yeah,
saying
yeah.
that Kansas City offensively, I
Yep.
think they can
Hmm.
do what they need to.
Yep.
I think they're going to be okay. I
Yep.
really do. Um, and I think that I just trust Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback in the playoffs.
Well, what's interesting too, because like in the past, like he almost reminds me a little bit of Manning. Like they've had really good offenses, this and that, but like this is the first year that I think Kansas City has a legit defense, right? Like very, very good. And I think not a lot of people talk about this, and a lot of people overlook their defense. Um, some more stats for you, bud. Uh, they gave up 294 points this season. That's the second fewest points. Baltimore gave up
Yeah,
280. San Francisco gave up 298. So, like, they were also second in the league behind Baltimore in sacks. They had 57, Baltimore had 60. So, like, it almost feels like they're underappreciated what they've been able to do this year. Uh, but it's been quite impressive for them to be able to have as much success as they have on defense. Because he hasn't had a defense that's done that type of that's done that well in previous seasons for him.
It's the defense has been great for them. It's been the offense that has respectfully kind of been trash. Like
Yeah,
they're 15th in the league in points scored. Like
which
that's
is
for a
unheard of.
Patrick.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, for a Patrick Mahomes offense, the fact that it's below out of the top 10 is bananas to me.
yeah. It is
So,
wild. One thing I wanted to mention, just because like we got to talk about him, the big guy, Chris Jones. He's
woo.
first of all, he's an absolute monster, and it's like he comes alive in the playoffs. But you know what never seems to amaze me is like stat sheets, right? Like you see, like okay, last week he had half a sack, two quarterback hits, but like you don't see all the near misses and like the devotion of double teams that are focused to try to keep him from disrupting the plays. Like that doesn't show up anywhere on the stat sheet, but he's someone that you need to account for on every single play. At least two guys, at least two on him every single play. Like, how do you stop him?
That's a good question because he's the heart and soul of that defense. He
Hmm.
has. And he this year, he held out week 1 because of contract stuff and they paid him and he has shown why he was worth every single cent
Hmm.
that they have paid him this year. He is the reason that they are still in the playoffs, and they're the reason that they got to host a home playoff game
Hmm.
this year. Um, and I'm gonna butcher. I'm gonna Chris Jones has made it so that other guys like, and I'm gonna butcher his name.
Do
Is it
it.
Kathir? I can't. It's Karlaftis. I can't. I butcher it every time. I've heard it week after week, and yeah, I
Nice.
can't. I can't pronounce it. Yeah, it's as good as that's gonna get. But
Yeah, there
he
you go.
also has 10 and a half sacks this year.
Yeah,
Like,
he's been very good.
and because people are double teaming Jones, he's able to get one on one situations,
Hmm.
and that's the reason this defense is number 2 in the league.
Well, this defense also has some other good players on it too. Like you look at L'Jarius Sneed, right? Like you saw the video of him jamming Tyreek Hill on last week, right? At the line.
Yeah,
He like planted him right in the ground. Like it was I don't know. Like I don't know if they're gonna have him shadow Diggs, what they're gonna do, but it's having a guy like him, oh, that's a dog.
yeah,
You need him on the
yeah.
team. So, well, let's talk about the ultimate dog, right? Josh Allen. I mean, this is the second Titan who's been on the losing side of all these playoff experiences, right? Like he does everything he thinks he needs to do, and then all of a sudden, with 15 seconds left, Mahomes gets a team, gets a team to win. So I just, I just want to mention, like, think about how different we would view his career if he had won those games, because
Yeah.
it would be very, very different. Um, and like, do you think he gets over the hump this year? Like, is this the time that he's able to do it?
This is supposed to be his year. Should be they like I said at the start of this is set up perfectly for Buffalo. This is what they wanted. They want a rematch with KC. They're gonna get it in Buffalo.
Hmm.
This is what they want. And now it's put up or shut up time because
Yeah,
they've now Buffalo's run out of excuses in my brain. Like, this is what you want, this is what you've asked for. It's gonna be cold. You're kind of catching a reeling Kansas City that isn't great offensively. Are you gonna show up? And I or are you going to be down early to this team and then just be like, well, we don't know what to do and fuck it up like they have in years past?
yeah, and turn the
So,
ball over and all of that, right? Like, I don't know. I
yeah,
think I think he really needs to lean on the running game. James Cook's come on really, really well and been very good for him to be able to kind of split things up a little bit and create some sort of calmness in their offense. Um, I don't know. Like, I hope he doesn't go out there and try to do too much. Like, he's got the weapons, right? Much better weapons than I think you have in Kansas City with Kincaid, Diggs, Davis, and Knox. But I don't know. Like, I just don't want to see him do too much. That's what I'm afraid
the,
of.
the thing with the thing is this: Buffalo has better offensive weapons, but they're not consistent.
Yeah, like Davis is not consistent. That's very true. I mean, Knox, you could argue that too, and even Diggs has had a bit of a down year.
I mean, Stephon Diggs, like, sure, he had 7 for 52 yards, but like, I kind of forgot that he was out there a lot of the time.
Hmm. He had a
Like,
couple first downs, but not. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Not the Diggs we're used to knowing, the one that like pulls the Minnesota Miracle, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know this.
And I mean, like, defensively too, like with
Yeah,
Buffalo, like, this is a good defense. Like, this is why they're, what, I think, sixth in the league in points allowed.
yeah,
Like,
they've done
they
very
don't let up
well.
a, yeah, they don't let up a lot of points. This is their time,
But
and
they're
I,
banged up, dude. Like they are
yep,
banged up all the way through. Like you look at the linebackers, the secondary, like they're just, dude, half their guys are questionable or we're out. Like it's, man, I don't know. Sean McDermott runs that next man up mentality, and I mean, I got to think that's what's going to happen. They're riding the 6 game win streak. I mean, over the last 2 months, and I think what we had mentioned previously when talking about Miami, they were going to have to go through a gauntlet to get to the Super Bowl and win it. Like Buffalo's been playing playoff football for the last 60 days.
they have. That being said, if you look at their schedule, respectfully, I mean, they've played some good teams. They have, but they've
Hmm.
also played some real shit teams too.
Yeah,
And those shit teams they've barely beaten.
yeah, you were saying that last week. I think that sometimes they play down to competition. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, let's not forget they did beat Kansas City in Kansas City, like at Arrowhead. So like that's, I mean, now they get a chance to win at home. Like we're gonna find out. Like who are they, or does Kansas City just come in and mop them? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Could we be seeing Mahomes go back to another Super Bowl, or right? Like, I mean, they still have to beat Baltimore or Houston, but I don't know. I like the 4 teams that are left in the AFC, man. I really do.
Me too. Me too. I
Yeah,
think it's the right 4 teams.
yeah,
Like, that's a weird thing to say. It's the right 4 teams for me that it makes sense.
yeah.
Um,
Who do you
who do I think is going to win this game?
Yeah, who's winning this game?
Willie, since we've started recording this show, I have one. I have one thing that I always say, and I say it over and I over again.
I
You
know.
got to beat the champs, man.
Yep.
And if you and until you beat the champs, like, I'm gonna pick the defending champs every time. So give me Kansas City.
I'm gonna go the opposite, just to, ride the opposite direction and see. I'm going
Yeah.
Buffalo. I hope they get over it this time. I don't know if they will, but I don't think Kansas City deserves to be there based on how they played this year, but that doesn't mean they're not gonna win. So, I don't know.
No,
We'll
yeah. To me, they're the defending champs, and until somebody beats them,
They still are,
yeah,
right?
yep,
Technically, they're still
yep,
Super Bowl champs until there is another Super Bowl champ. So,
yeah. And I
yeah.
think this is gonna be really. This is. I think if Mahomes can have a big win on the road,
Hmm.
I know that he's already one of the better quarterbacks we've had in the NFL, but like, this really kind of cements a legacy on a different level because this is his first road playoff game.
Yeah. And this is
Like,
where
and
where
I
you
think,
get judged. This is how Brady got judged too, right? Like though he
yep,
had a ton of home playoff games.
yeah. It turns out when you have a bye every year,
Yeah,
like, yeah.
that's what happens. But
Um, but yeah, I think this is gonna, like, and he's gonna go into a hostile Buffalo crowd. That's the thing. This isn't like going respectfully into like Houston or any other place. This is Buffalo, man.
yeah, where fans
They
throw
jump through flaming
snowballs at
tables.
at wide receivers and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they jump through.
yeah,
You said flaming tables, right?
yeah,
Yeah, they are hardcore. Uh,
yeah.
all right.
So
Well, we broke down all 4 games for the divisional series. We got one last thing we want to mention before we wrap up, and we've got our trivia questions. And I know last week, I think it was, you asked which team has lost the most Super Bowls. Um,
yes, sir.
yeah, you go ahead, give it to them.
It's two teams, the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots. Five Super Bowls apiece they've lost.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, but
All
we've won
right.
six, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's fair. So, and
Yeah,
the new question that we have, actually, I think we've got two today. Is that right?
we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So,
I'll give them the first one,
yeah, give him the
and Willie,
first
you
one.
give them the second one. So now that Detroit has gotten off the playoff schneid and they won a playoff game, who now currently owns the new playoff drought in the NFL? Who has gone the longest without winning a playoff game? Now that it's not the Detroit Lions anymore.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's going to be a good one. All
Yeah.
right. So we've got that one, and then I've got another one that I just thought was needed to be said. Since we're Christian McCaffrey's playing this week, he scored 21 touchdowns this season. My question is, who holds the record for the most touchdowns in a season? And that doesn't include quarterback touchdown throws. So, for instance, like Peyton Manning threw 55 in 2013. I'm just referring to rushing and receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right. So, and go ahead. You can drop the answer to that of what you think right in the comments below. Was there anything else you wanted to cover, Al?
No, but I am excited because next week is our
Yes.
first in-person episode together, baby.
Yeah, I'm
Whew.
really excited for that. So it's going to be a little later than 1 week, because we're going to be doing it on Thursday. Um, yeah, Thursday.
God damn.
In my parents' basement. So,
Let's go.
yeah, we're gonna have a great time. So we will be back on January 23rd. Like Al said, we're gonna be doing our in-person episode, and I'm really looking forward to this. Like I can't believe we've almost made it through our first full NFL season of podcasting, which is just epic. So, and then we're gonna be starting up with baseball in a few weeks. So it's gonna be nuts. So,
Yeah.
but listen, I really appreciate it. I know we had a long one today, but we had a lot we needed to cover. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And Al, I love you, brother.
Hey, Willie, I love you too, man. In about a week, I'll see you in person, man.
All right, you take care. Peace.
All right. Love you, buddy.